Hey guys, I'm Becky from Book Bite Reviews, and today I'm talking about all the books I read in September. There are a lot of books this month, so let's just go ahead and dive right into it. As always, we will be starting with DNFs and moving up to 5 stars. This month I only had one book that I DNF'd, and that was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This was one of my 2019 reading goals, was to try and read this book. I love the story of this book. I love the movie. I love every single YA retelling I've ever read, but I just couldn't get into the actual original copy. And it's because of how dated it is. I don't like classics. I don't like that old Victorian style of writing. It drives me crazy. And I tried listening to it on audiobook, but I found myself zoning out and not really paying attention. I know the story, so I still knew what was going on. I just felt like, what is the point of listening to this when I could be reading or listening to something else that I'd actually enjoy? So I did go ahead and DNF it. I definitely respect the story. I understand its value tremendously. I think it's so much for existing because it created my favorite trope of the misunderstood bad boy, but I could not read this book, so it did get DNF'd. I only had one 2-star book, and that was The Silent Patient by Michaelides. I kind of had mixed feelings with this book. I was finding it very interesting in the beginning. I felt like the twist was too ridiculous for me. I'm not really big into like crazy twists in the way that it happens in this book, and I don't know, it was just a little too weird. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. It just seemed unrealistic to me. And yeah, that about sums up my feelings for this book. I will say that I'm happy that I did read it because I feel like everyone's reading it right now. Everyone is really, really liking it. I did not. So I'm happy that I read it so that I can have something to add to the conversation. I definitely see why people would like it, but I'm kind of thinking maybe I just don't really like thrillers. It was definitely interesting. I read it till the end. I wanted to know how it was going to end, but I just wasn't thrilled with my reading experience. I also only had one 3-star book this month, and technically it is a 3.5, and that was The Grateful Boys by Francoise DuMaurier. This is one that I accepted for review this month. I do have a separate vlog and review video, which I will link right here for you. But basically, I enjoyed it. I definitely see the value in this book, but it did have quite a few flaws and things that I would have changed. But that's about all that I will say for it. I did enjoy it. I think other people will enjoy it as well, so I definitely think it's something to check out if it interests you. And I do suggest going ahead and watching my vlog and review video. Moving on to the 4-star books, the very first one is Hicotea, which is a nightlight story by Lorena Alvarez. This is a juvenile graphic novel, and it is so well done. I really, really love the art style in it. It's a much darker book than you would expect from it. Looking at the little girl that's on the cover, you would think this is going to be a very fluffy book, but it's actually darker. I will say the first book in this series was a lot darker and I enjoyed a lot more. This one is very interesting and takes a different kind of dark turn that I really enjoyed and I thought it was important. I don't think it blew me away as much as the first one, so this one is getting 4 stars, but I highly recommend you check this out. The artwork is just fantastic in it. It's in full color and it's very, very beautiful. Next was Aquicorn Cove by Katie O'Neill. I really needed to get my Tea Dragon Society fix, so I went ahead and picked this one up. I definitely think that this is a good hangover cure for your Tea Dragon Society-ness because it does have some different kind of magical creatures in it. It isn't as focused on the creatures as it is in the Tea Dragon Society, which made me really sad and knocked this book down to a 4-star. I definitely wanted to know more about this other world that we come across. I wanted to know more about the creatures. I wish that they were a lot more featured, but the story really is more about our main character and her family and them kind of like realizing who they are and becoming their true selves kind of thing, which I really appreciated. It was a really cute story, but I was in it for the magical creatures and they were not featured enough for my liking. And the last 4-star book that I had was my Rub Club pick for this month, and that was Give the Dark My Love by Beth Revis. This book is about a girl who gets a scholarship to go to the school where she can learn alchemy and she can hopefully save her people. There is a plague attacking the nation and all of the rich people are ignoring it because it's mostly affecting the poor, but it can affect literally anybody. It just happens to be affecting the poor the most. So our main character Nedra goes to the school to try to find a cure, and she finds a lot more than she bargained for. This book is definitely very dark. It does have some trigger warnings for animal abuse, terminal illness, and child death. So definitely know that going into it. I heard of this book when it first came out, and I was originally interested in it because a lot of people loved it, but after learning more about it, I didn't really think it was my type of book. I still kind of feel that way. I wouldn't have picked this up for myself. I didn't pick it up for myself, and I am not going to continue on with the series. It was very interesting. I will say this book is a breath of fresh air. It is unlike anything I have read, and if reading it sounds like something that you would be drawn to, I highly suggest it because I've never read anything that is even similar. This book doesn't copy anything. It is very original, and it was really enjoyable to read, but the overall plot and everything, it just wasn't for me, which is what I expected going into it. I will say that it definitely surprised me and got a higher rating than I thought it was going to get, and I definitely enjoyed our main character Nedra's arc throughout the story. It was very, very interesting and one that does not happen enough, and I really enjoyed that. So I know you're probably thinking, I thought that in the beginning you said that there were a lot of books, and we've already gotten through 4 stars, and there was hardly any books there. That's because I read a crap ton of 5-star books this month, you guys. This was one of my best reading months. I read more books than I have the entire year. Yes, last month I said that. I read more books than last month, and read I think like 100 or 200 pages more than I read last month. I'll put that number right here for you guys. But it was a crazy month. I can't believe I read so much. But let's go ahead and dive into these 5 stars because a lot of these are making my top 10 list and becoming favorites forever. So the very first one is The OK Witch by Emma Steinkellner. This is a tween graphic novel about a 13-year-old girl who finds out that she is a witch. Her mom has always known and kept it a secret, and so she must travel through her mom's diary with her cat to find out what exactly happened in her mom's past, why she would want to push magic away, and find out who she is as a witch herself. This book was really, really cute. It has a lot of inclusion. Our main character is mixed, and it was just so nice and so like spooky, but not spooky because we have witches and like a witch hunt, but it wasn't scary at all. It was just very whimsical and perfect for the season, and I really, really enjoyed this and highly recommend you pick this up. Next up was one that I accepted for review, and that was American Royals by Katharine McGee. I really, really enjoyed this book. I had very high expectations going into it, and about halfway through, I thought that my rating was going to be lower than 5 stars. I was so excited for this book, but the pacing is pretty slow. This is a very, very realistic book. I will give it that. It didn't feel overly dramatic, even though we're dealing with teens. It felt very mature and very real and very true to what would really happen in real life in these circumstances. And I really, really respected it for that. But I thought it was going to be a 4-star until we got to the ending. And that ending was crazy and epic, and it hurt my heart to end it like that. Thankfully, there is another book. There's no way that it could end like that. So there is another book coming out, hopefully soon. I will definitely be reading it. This book was really, really enjoyable. Again, very realistic. I just really enjoyed it, and the ending just really, really got me and pushed this book into a 5-star. Then I read Always and Forever Lara Jean by Jenny Han. This book was so good. I cannot believe that the series is over. I will say I felt like this was the best way to end the series. It was all very genuine and felt really wrapped up and nice, but it didn't feel like overly done. I felt like it was very true, and it just made you feel good at the end that all your characters are where they should be, things are happening that should be happening, and it just felt really, really nice, and I really, really enjoyed this one. I don't really have too much to say other than that because it is the 3rd book, but just know if you have not yet picked up this series, you have got to. I cannot wait for the next movie. It comes out in February, I believe, which is not too far away. I think it's only like 4 or 5 months at this point, and I cannot wait to see the movie adaptation for this one. Hopefully we do get it, but I will say if you haven't started it, you need to, and if you have but you haven't finished it, go ahead and do it because it really is worth it. Moving on with my reread of the Lux series, I read books 4 and 5 this month. Both, of course, are getting 5 stars. They were both fantastic. I will say, if you want to reread the Lux series before going into the spin-off, The Darkest Star, that if you have already read it and you remember most of the things, you really only need to read book 5. This is where everything that is mentioned in The Darkest Star happens. So when I finally got to book 5, I was like, oh, I could have just read this one, but I tremendously enjoyed my experience rereading this. It was just as amazing as the first time, if not more, because I just have so many emotions tied to it. But just for all of you out there who are like, I want to pick it up, but I don't really remember everything, The Darkest Star does mention quite a bit from the Lux series that I totally forgot about, especially about the war and things that happen with the government. All of those things happen in this book. So if you don't want to reread the entire series, you can just pick up book 5. But if you're like me, you reread the whole thing and it's so freaking worth it. Which means I then picked up The Darkest Star. When I originally read this, I did give it 4 out of 5 stars, and after rereading it, I decided to bump up my review to a 5 star. This was a lot better than I remember it being. I feel like when I first reread it, I was just a bit confused, and I felt like maybe this book was just a little bit more nostalgic, and maybe that was why I was wanting to give it 5 stars. So I knocked it down to 4, but now after rereading the Lux series, understanding everything that is mentioned in this book, knowing exactly who these characters are, I felt a much bigger attraction to this book. I loved every second of it, so I decided to go ahead and bump it up to 5. It does not change the fact that there isn't a whole lot of plot happening in this book. There is one plot line, but we kind of know it pretty much the entire time of the book. Majority of the book, we know what the dun-dun-dun is. So as far as plot, this book isn't like super action-packed and we're just finding out all these crazy things. Yeah, that doesn't change the fact, but I still really loved it. So I did bump it up to 5 stars, and I'm very happy about it. In anticipation of Wayward Son's release, I did reread Carry On, and this was just as awesome as the first time. I did listen to it on audio this time. The first time I read it physically. The audiobook is fantastic, you guys. So if you want to reread it but you want a different experience, I highly suggest the audiobook. It's really well done. And of course, this stays a 5 star. And then of course, as soon as I got Wayward Son, I immediately picked it up and read it, and this book is also getting 5 stars from me. I will say that's probably an unpopular opinion of this book. If you are a fan who read Carry On when it came out 4 years ago, then you're probably not going to love Wayward Son, and that is because it is not at all what we are expecting from this book. If you are expecting the warm, fluffy, romantic antics of Carry On, you're gonna be sad with Wayward Son, and that's about all I will say that could kind of hint at what's coming. I just want you to be prepared because this is not at all what we were expecting. I will also warn you that I did annotate it, and my very first 2 tabs are blue, which for me means sad. So just know that. That is all I will say that could spoil this. But for unspoileriness, even though it is not at all what I was expecting, I really loved it. I loved every second reading this. I'm so happy to have this. This is very short compared to Carry On, but I really enjoyed it. I definitely think it added to the book, but I will say I felt like this was definitely something for the fans, and it definitely felt like a filler book. Again, that's all I will say that could hint at anything else. It felt like this is a filler book. And I will also say that the ending just crushed me. That's what I'll say. On a positive note, I really loved the arc of Penny in this one. I'm really excited for her future. I just really love Penny. She's an amazing friend, and I felt like she is turning a new page in this book and really finding herself, and I just really enjoyed it. A lot of people I've talked to have been like, what the heck did I read? That is not what I was expecting. I have seen some people giving it 2 stars that were very excited about it. So just know it's not what you're expecting, and I feel like I am one of the outsiders, or just one that's just like, I'm a diehard fan now, that gives it 5 stars, because I don't think that that is going to be the overall rating of this book. If it is, it's just because we love Simon and Baz and we want to eat everything up. If you guys do want to talk about this book, if you've read it and you need someone to talk to, please go ahead and comment below or find me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Find me. We can talk about it. My book club pick this month is one that you guys were probably like, how the heck have you not read it yet? And that was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Yes, I read it. Yes, it's in the 5-star. And yes, this is one of my all-time favorites now. I cannot wait to read the rest of the series. It is huge, I know, and I'm mad that I got myself into this situation, to be honest, but I'm so freaking excited to read it. I cannot wait. I still anticipated not really loving it when I went into it, but it was so much more than I anticipated. Sarah J. Maas is honestly amazing to me, and if you're not a fan of hers, I'm sorry about that, but I am, and this was just really, really good. I'm so happy I finally read this book. I really want to own all of them. It's why I haven't gone on the series just yet, is because I think I'm gonna try to get a box set and read all of them physically, because I really, really loved my experience reading this physically and annotating it. I didn't check out the audiobook, so I don't know how that is. My plan was to check it out, but it just hooked me reading it physically, and I read it in like, I think 2 days. It was a fast read, and I just loved it. And the final book that I read this month, and one of my new favorites, which Throne of Glass and Wayward Son and Carry On are all in that pile as well, but this one just really blew me away. This was one that I was anticipating all year. I was pretty nervous going into it because I didn't think it was going to live up to my expectations. I was also pretty worried because there are some very mixed reviews on this book, but I went ahead and tried it out anyways, and I freaking loved it so much, and that is Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. I was anticipating this book for so long because of this beautiful cover. It just sounded interesting and sounded like something I should read. For whatever reason, it was just calling to me. This is not like really anything that I've read before, so I didn't know why I wanted to pick it up, so I was very nervous, and then the reviews came out and they were all very mixed, so I was like, I feel like I'm not going to end up liking it, but I picked it up anyways, and it was outstanding, you guys. I loved this so much. The ending is just crazy, and you have no idea who to trust throughout this book. It is political and romantic, and oh my god, it's just action-packed. I was hooked on every single page. It would not let me go. I was thinking about this book constantly. I had to finish it up as soon as I could. It was just overall outstanding and definitely going to be on my top 10. I am unsure where it's going to fall, but I know it's going to be pretty up there. You'll have to watch my top 10 to find out, which isn't coming out until like December/January. So you got some time to wait, but I gotta wait to see what else I read these last 3 months, because what if something amazing happens? So just know you have a sneak peek into my top 10, because this and these will be mentioned on it for sure, but Wicked Saints was absolutely outstanding. Just perfection. Pick it up. And that one is another one that I have nobody to talk to about. So if you've read Wicked Saints and you want to talk about it, hit me up, because I need to talk to somebody about that. Alright guys, those are all 16 books that I read this month. Yes, 16 books. Again, read way more pages than I have, read way more books than I have. I'm really hoping that this reading mood just stays around for the rest of my life. This is one of the best months and one of the best for new favorites. I had majority of those books in the 5-star category, and that is absolutely crazy. I just loved September. It was so good. But okay guys, let's wrap this up. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you loved it and you want to see more bookish content from me, please hit that subscription button. And if you want to be notified as soon as my videos go live here on YouTube, hit the notification bell. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!